Mike Leach is one of the most infamous, respected, and beloved coaches in North American sports history. Whether it be through the ascension of his pass or die style air raid offense, or his sometimes hilarious, sometimes scary, and sometimes pirate themed interviews, Mike Leach should be a very easy candidate for a first ballot Hall of Fame honor. Yet somehow this past week, the National Football Foundation, in conjunction with the College Football Hall of Fame, rejected Leach's Hall of Fame ballot. Their reasoning? He needed a 0.4% higher overall win percentage in order to qualify. The NFF's qualifications for a coach to enter the Hall of Fame include a rule that says coaches must have a 60% or higher career win percentage in order to make the Hall. Mike Leach's career win percentage? 59.6. Now, instead of being the cool teacher and rounding that total up to an even 60, the NFF's president, Steve Hatchell, had this to say in an interview with the Mercury News regarding this decision. Quote, "We've heard every reason why we should look beyond why someone is not in the Hall of Fame. But at some point, you have to say, these are the rules." Now, we here at O&O Sports have not only called you here today to tell you why this is outright dumb, but why the NFF and Steve Hatchell need to make an exception for the legendary Mike Leach. Mike Leach was hired on at Iowa Wesleyan University to be the offensive coordinator for head coach Hal Mumme in 1989. In their time spent at Iowa Wesleyan, Leach and Mumme would begin to develop what is now commonly known as the air raid offense, an offensive play style meant to overwhelm a defense's secondary by including several receivers on every play and passing anywhere from 60 to 90% of the game. Their offense quickly took the college football world by storm as they were both elevated to positions at Valdosta State in 1992 and then to Kentucky in 1997. It was their final stop as a duo at Kentucky where their air raid offense went on full display as they were torching defenses unlike anyone had ever seen. Their offense worked so well that their quarterback Tim Couch was selected with the first overall pick by the Cleveland Browns in the 1999 NFL Draft. Leach would then be hired on by Bob Stoops at Oklahoma the following season to be the Sooners' next offensive coordinator, and in his first and only season in Norman, he took the Sooners from one of the worst offenses in the Big 12 the year prior to the best in a single season. This feat was all Leach needed to become a new hot commodity on the head coaching market. And in the year 2000, he would become the head coach of the Mike Leach's coaching philosophy almost immediately turned Texas Tech into one of the most exciting teams to watch in the sport. His teams included multiple record-breaking quarterbacks, including Cliff Kingsbury, who set the NCAA record for most completions in a career with 1,229, BJ Simmons, who set the record for the most passing yards in a season with 5,833, and Graham Harrell, who set the record for the most passing yards in a career with 15,793. Leach and Texas Tech also became notorious for their unprecedented scoring feats. In their 2004 game against TCU, the Horned Frogs led Texas Tech 21-0 in the second quarter. By the end of the game, the Red Raiders had won 70-35. In that same year, Texas Tech beat the Nebraska Cornhuskers 70-10, which was the most points given up by the Cornhuskers in their 114-year history as a program. And in 2005, the Red Raiders trailed both Kansas State and Texas A&M late into both of those games and still managed to beat both of them by a combined score of 115-37. After a controversial loss to a number 15 ranked Texas Longhorns in 2007, Leach fired off on the officiating crew in a now infamous interview directly after the game ended.
For the most part, unless you're a new guy, you know that I've been here for 8 years. And you also know that I have never directly commented on officiating. But something needs to be said, and I'm going to say it. This second year in a row that an Austin resident has, through officiating, negatively impacted the football game, the integrity of the football game. I think that's unfortunate. And I think it's disturbing that Austin residents would be involved in this. I think it would be disturbing if a Lubbock resident was involved in the officiating of a game. There was a point there where in three plays, they took away an explosive, which was one of the greatest catches I've seen that Crabtree caught on the sideline. They took two touchdowns off the board. and then they hit the quarterback late and just slaughtered him. And then after that, in taking the touchdown off the board, they have the temerity to call us for holding.
What specifically?
Sorry, I'm sorry. Well, are you gonna? Are you gonna misbehave, or you don't want to be dismissed, do you? This is pretty good.
No,
that's about as good as it gets, you know.
After making those comments, he received what would be the biggest fine in Big 12 history to that point at $10,000. He later stated that he did not regret making those comments. The very next season, Texas Tech would have its best overall season in over 3 decades as Leach led them to an 11-2 season with wins over number 19 Kansas, number 8 Oklahoma State, and number 1 Texas. Despite that, Leach was fired from Texas Tech in 2009 after becoming the winningest head coach in school history by going 84-43 in 10 seasons. The reasons for his firing have been highly disputed over the years, as at the time he was being investigated by the school for improper treatment of concussions. However, Leach himself said that his firing was due to Texas Tech's refusal to meet his demands in a contract renegotiation. The real reason? Well, we'll probably never know. In his short time out of the head coaching spotlight, Leach tried his hand and succeeded at color commentary for CBS, became a college football radio co-host, and wrote a New York Times bestseller. His time away from coaching ended in 2011 when he was hired on to be the next head coach for the Washington State Cougars were in dire straits, going 49-72 in the decade prior to hiring Mike Leach to be their next head coach. And after a rocky start to his tenure, Leach saw his playstyle flourish once again under quarterback Connor Halliday. Halliday thrived under Leach's tutelage and ended up shattering the NCAA record for passing yards in a single game when he threw for 734 yards and 6 touchdowns against the California Golden Bears. A record that hasn't been broken to this day and has only been tied by NFL MVP and multi-time Super Bowl champion Patrick Mahomes at Leach's former school of Texas Tech. In 2015, Leach gave Washington State its best overall record since 2003. In 2016, he gave Washington State its best conference record since 2002. And in 2018, Leach broke the school record for wins in a season by going 11-2 with a win in the Alamo Bowl versus Iowa State. And on top of all of that, he dropped this gem of an interview mid-season.
Well, first of all, what kind of mythical powers does a Sun Devil have? We got to consider that. The Trojan, does he have a horse or is he on foot? Does he have a bow and arrow or just his sword? The Bruin, definitely formidable. Another bear up there at Cal. The tree, I imagine that tree's going to get chopped down. The duck might lose interest and just fly away and get out of there, which may be good advice under the circumstances. The husky, no chance. The beaver, we'll see how long that beaver can hold his breath. The ute, again, we're back to, is he on horseback? Does he have a bow and arrow? Did he trade for a rifle? You'd have to get one of those Harry Potter activists to read up on how you kill a sun devil, because there's a lot of outside stuff there. A buffalo's going to be pretty hard to tangle with. A buffalo's utterly outstanding. Butch will find a way. There's no question. The Coug will find a way. Clear-minded and crafty, a combination of stay out of harm's way and attack when you get your chances or your openings.
By the time he was pulled away from Washington State, Leach finished his tenure with the second highest win percentage by a head coach in school history. But sadly for Washington State fans, he was in fact pulled to the SEC to be the head coach of the Leach's tenure for the Bulldogs started in 2020 during the pandemic era of college football. This era, as many of us know, threw the entire sport and the entire world into disarray. Some teams played a full season, some played half of one, and some didn't play at all. But when turmoil swept the college football world, Mike Leach showed us that he didn't care and that his play style would work no matter what was going on around him. In his first game as Mississippi State's head coach, he knocked off the reigning national champion LSU Tigers 44-34. His quarterback, KJ Costello, threw for over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. The Bulldogs would go on to finish their shortened season 4-7 with a win in their bowl game over Tulsa. Leach's next feat as a head coach would be turning a young up-and-coming quarterback named Will Rogers into one of the best quarterbacks in college football. In Rogers' first 2 full seasons as a Bulldog, he would throw for over 8,700 yards and 71 touchdowns with only 17 interceptions. In those years, he would also lead the NCAA in completions and completion percentage. With Rogers at the helm, Leach was able to put together 2 very solid seasons at Mississippi State. But sadly, before the conclusion of his 3rd season at Mississippi State, the legendary Mike Leach would pass away at the age of 61 due to complications with a heart condition. Following Mike Leach's untimely death, many of his colleagues from best friends to biggest rivals would speak about his impact on the sport and themselves. Former Alabama head coach Nick Saban would say this about Leach, quote, "He was an offensive innovator who always did things his way and was admired for it." Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman would say, "From the way he coached to his unique personality, there will never be another Mike Leach." And Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin, who coached against Leach in his final game, would say, "I'm grateful to be part of his final win, hug him, and watch him walk off like the winner he is. I know God is welcoming the Pirate home now." Mike Leach will be remembered not only as an innovator of college football, but as one of the most unique and interesting people the sport has ever seen. And truly, Mike Leach doesn't need the College Football Hall of Fame. His impact on the game will be felt on the field and in the record books for the rest of time. But the disrespect shown by the NFF for a legend of the sport like Mike Leach is what has sent many coaches, players, and media alike into making statements and videos like the one you are watching now. But his record-shattering offenses and impossible comeback wins make up only half of who Mike Leach truly was. While he was one of the greatest coaches in sports, he was also one of the greatest people in sports. He proved to everyone that you don't need to have the most wins or a national championship to change the game forever. And in Leach's case, you didn't even need to be a ranked team to do so. You just needed to be a Pirate. In doing research for this video, I found something that I think encapsulates who Mike Leach was as a whole. And that came in the form of a clip from his cameo in an episode of Friday Night Lights sometime from the late 2000s. And if Steve Hatchell or anyone from the NFF just so happens to be watching this video, I think you're going to want to open your ears for this part.
Hey, do you know how to get to Lubbock?
You got to take 61 up to 23.
Hey, Dillon East, right? You're the coach at Dillon East. You've lost your inner pirate. You know, sword. Have you ever heard swing your sword? You're supposed to swing your sword like this. You're swinging yours like this. I mean, you've got to find your inner pirate. A lot of times things just happen for a reason. We don't know why God wants it that way, but you can't make the best out of it until you get back your inner pirate. You might be the luckiest man alive and not even know it.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for weekly college football content. It really helps us out a lot. And if you're looking for season previews for the upcoming college football season, you can find that right here.